If you take a look at what's been happening with regard to IPOs in the Botswana Stock Exchange, the Cresta IPO marks a milestone, I would think, in the BSC's history. The reason for that is it's the largest IPO that we've had for a long time, certainly for the last 4 years. Now, this has not been an easy part. The reason for that is that we've had to educate investors, which we have put a lot of effort into, and which we will continue to do over the next few years as well. So the strategy of the exchange is try and educate retail investors in Botswana on the potential that they have to gain from the market, and also educate them on the risks of investing in the market so that we could improve liquidity in the market. One of the problems that we've had is that the market seems to be skewed in favor of the fund managers, mainly the pension funds. Now, when that happens, you would appreciate that liquidity dries up. So we need to come up with strategies, which this I spoke of is one, to try and make liquidity or try and improve the liquidity by diversifying the investor base in the BSC.
Well, what is interesting is that we seem to have the retail investor community really coming to that party. Cresta now sitting as the company with the biggest individual participation at the BSC. Market sentiment is one thing. I mean, corporate appetite to actually go down the equity route to raise capital is another. So how is Botswana Incorporated feeling about using the equity space as a means of raising capital at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, very valid question. What we've been having last year, for example, has been a fairly dry year as far as IPOs are concerned. But this year has not been dry, and we expect a few more listings to come this year. For example, we've had the listing of Wilderness Holdings, which had its primary listings in the Botswana Stock Exchange in April, and now we've had the Cresta listing in this month, and we expect this climate to continue. Now, when you look at Botswana, you also have to appreciate the role that the private sector plays in the economy, and the fact that this role can be improved quite a bit. And this is where I think that the BSC can help in fueling this growth process, both on the privatization front as well as a listing in terms of the private companies' contribution to the economy. So this is where the BSC comes in. Yeah. We've been engaging with companies over the past few years. You would appreciate that a listing decision is never an easy one. It's a very difficult one for companies to appreciate, especially in an economy like Botswana, where the private sector is both young as well as fairly highly controlled by shall we say, families.
Yeah.
Therefore, but there's a need for that, the process, education process, awareness creation process to seep in, and for people to understand that a listing is merely raising funds in a stock exchange. It is more than, it goes beyond raising funds, and I think we've been successful in communicating this message to the private sector.
Well,
so we are bullish at this point.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, Cresta Markanelo follows the listing of tourism-related company Wilderness Holdings, having listed in May. It has a secondary listing on the JSE as well. What's your view on the tourism sector as a whole in Botswana?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
What's your view on the tourism sector as a whole in Botswana?
Tourism, well, quite positive at this point in time, because I've just been analyzing a few figures for a report that I'm writing. And if we were to take Q2, for example, that is April, my figures up to about the 16th of June, you find that the tourism sector's contribution to the appreciation of the domestic company index is quite high. So, as against many markets this year, the domestic company index of the Botswana Stock Exchange has appreciated up to 16th of June by something like 2.4%. And quite a bit of this, quite a bit of the growth in the DCI has been contributed by the tourism sector.
Well, the Botswana Development Corporation has really been the one embarking on listing this listing exercise as part of its long-term aim on empowering citizens through its divestment in entities it owns. What's next on the list in terms of listings the market should be anticipating, and just how soon do you see these coming to the fore?
Well, I can't comment on what the future listings are going to be, but we've been talking to a few companies, and they are working on a few applications. The BBC, I think we are thankful to the BBC for having listed Cresta. And as I was telling this morning at the listing ceremony at the Botswana Stock Exchange, we hope that this will be the first of many such listings.